Hello and welcome to Après, Midi, and I want to thank everybody for being here. I am very, very happy to introduce John Eigenauer, who is the author of Paris and the Birth of Public Knowledge. Okay, now, I just have to say that, this is fascinating reading to me because it's not something I ever thought about. And when I first met John, I thought, why did we fall in love with Paris? Did everybody here fall in love the day you arrived like I did?
Yes, before.
But exactly. How is it? What is it about this city where, I felt the day I arrived that I had lived here my whole life, or that I had lived here in past lives, and that you just can't get it out of your system. So that's why I asked John to explain this because I've been asking this question for all these years, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to figure that out today. So, he is the author, and perhaps he says the answer lies in centuries of how Parisians have treated knowledge. John is an intellectual historian and professor emeritus of philosophy at Taft College in California. He holds a doctorate in interdisciplinary studies from Syracuse University. His work has been published in a variety of publications, including the International Journal of Educational Reform, The Historian, the Harvard Theological Review, History of Intellectual Culture, American Atheist Magazine, and the Huntington Library Quarterly. He has spoken internationally on human rationality and offers workshops and seminars in the pedagogy of critical thinking. His book, Paris and the Birth of Public Knowledge, is available online. He does not have copies with him. You cannot buy a signed copy from him today, so you have to go online to get it. Okay? He lives in Vincennes and has a view from his apartment of the Chateau de Vincennes, where his hero, Denis Diderot, was imprisoned for writing about forbidden topics. I love that.
Yes.
The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm sure you all know Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau said that the greatest compliment that was ever given him was when someone asked his opinion about something and listened to his answer. So I thank you, because that's the greatest compliment that you could give me, to ask me what I think about something and listen to my answer. Now, the way this came about is Adrian and I were talking about why we fall in love with Paris. And we decided that things like, I love the culture, I love the music, I love the language, I love the food, I love the wine, that was too simple of an explanation. That's like the surface. Everybody loves something about Paris, whether it's museums or the language. But what's behind that? What made it happen so that we could come here and just fall in love with it? Just love so many things about it. So I'm going to try to answer that question today, but I'm going to do so with a bunch of questions that I hope you help me answer. So I'm going to start with this one, even though it seems far afield. You tell me, what happens when you build a bridge?
People cross it.
People cross it.
You connect one place with another.
You connect one place to another.
You have more opportunities.
You have more opportunities for what?
Who knows?
More opportunities for everything.
Communication.
You have opportunities for communication.
People get to the other side.
Commerce.
Commerce. You can do business with people. There was another one I missed.
Connect two separate areas.
Connect two separate areas. You connect cultures, potentially.
You can make an architectural statement.
You can make an architectural statement.
You can collect a toll.
A toll.
It's true.
Okay.
That's a capitalist.
Yeah. We'll end on that note.
Yes.
Okay. So
You can expand your life in ways you never
You can expand your life in ways you never expected. Okay, so this is Pont Neuf. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows Pont Neuf.
The oldest bridge in the city.
Yeah, 1608, 1607 it was finished. It was the first stone bridge in Paris. And there's some very unusual features about it. So I want you to tell me what you see. Just tell me right out, what are you seeing?
The forms that create these spaces perhaps for protection.
Okay, so you have form that creates space for protection, certainly a function of a bridge.
2 ways, it goes 2 ways.
It goes two ways. Okay.
The building looks like it's in the water.
The building is in the water because it was a pump house. That's La Samaritaine, which gave its name to the department store later. But that was a water pump house.
No houses were built on it.
You see no houses. This was the first bridge built without houses or businesses.
There's seating that allows you to sit and enjoy the river.
You see the little cutouts there? Those are,
No, she's
they're going to say that you can't sit there because,
because you're
Recording.
in my camera.
yeah. Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry.
You're forgiven.
So as you can see, there are cutouts, there are balconies, and those were made specifically so that Parisians could stand and look out at the Seine. And that was the first time that had ever been conceived of.
There's a distinction between the type of travel.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning you have carriages,
Right,
you
and
have
horses.
horse-drawn carts,
And pedestrian.
and you have pedestrians.
Uh-huh.
And if you notice, there's even different social classes. Someone pulling a wagon on his own power is different from someone being pulled by horses. There's one other big detail that was new on this bridge that had never been seen before, and I wondered, it has something to do with the pedestrians.
Pedestrian, the pedestrian walkway
Yeah.
plus the carriage road.
Exactly, there were sidewalks. These are the first sidewalks on any bridge in the world, ever. In fact, when it was invented, when it was built, there was no name for sidewalk. They had to invent that. Next, please.
Then after that?
Pardon?
After that one?
No, this is good. This
Yeah.
is good.
Okay.
So this is another shot of Pont Neuf, and you can see the procession. But what you should probably be noticing is how much sociality is going on there on a bridge. I mean, you have horses crossing, and you have people meeting on the left, and people watching, and down here you have jugglers and medicine sellers and cranks and all sorts of life going on in Pont Neuf. Ah, you're clicking.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Diane was clicking. You're clicking.
Yeah.
All right.
But I knew when you pointed to her, it was really meant for me.
Yeah, okay.
got
But
that.
I didn't. That took me a minute. Okay. Okay. One more, please.
Sorry, what makes you believe that crowd of people actually existed since it's a painting?
No, it's merely a representative. It's not a photograph, but it was someone trying to capture what he or she saw on a daily basis on Pont Neuf. So, yeah, or yeah, it's the best they could do.
Had very few.
Pardon?
The other painting had much fewer, much less. So I'm not questioning it. I'm just saying it's interesting that you get two different views of what was on the bridge.
Yes, it is interesting that you get two different views. I'm trying to repeat.
Yeah, you're doing very good.
That you get two different views of it. And yet, I think each author was trying to portray something about Pont Neuf, whether it was increased sociality or different social classes or the fact that kings could pass over it. I'll give you a second to read this in French or English, however you want.
Okay.
Now, what I find so interesting here is at the end, is that I've been told to stand over here. Is at the end, you can see something that maybe we wouldn't think of necessarily in the 21st century. It facilitates the exchange of opinions among inhabitants of a city. And when I think of a bridge in a 21st century way, especially being from LA, I think of cars going over it, and that's about it. But this is from 1926, a historian writing about Pont-Neuf. So, to answer the question, what did Pont-Neuf do as we look at it from a historical perspective? It enhanced sociality. It became very much the center of social life. We didn't really emphasize that in our talk, but it became a gathering place for people to go and exchange ideas and news and so forth. Go ahead. Now this concept here we didn't get to either, but Pont-Neuf served as a place where classes could come together, because it was a very striated society in the 17th century, 18th century, even the 19th century. And so Pont-Neuf provided a means of leveling socially. In fact, the news gathering is here together with that, because when placards were posted by the king, for example, and the population could not read them, the wealthy would read the placards to the poor people so the poor people would know what was going on in the news. So that's a way of leveling out social classes in a really interesting way. And you don't have that in other cities. Go ahead.
I had already posted new ideas, so I
Go
was
ahead.
ahead of
That's
you.
all right.
Okay.
Go ahead. So there are scholars who argue that what Pont-Neuf became essentially, and its most basic element, is a productive intellectual space. A place where people could come, gather, share ideas, come up with ideas for businesses or overthrowing the government or whatever. And in fact, at one point in time, Pont-Neuf was closed because too many subversive ideas were being shared there.
Trump wasn't in power then, was he?
Are you mic'd up?
Yes.
Then I won't repeat that.
I just asked a simple question.
Go ahead. Okay. So we're going to shift gears. So one of the things I'm going to do today is kind of make a big circle around things. So rather than just moving chronologically, we're going to move thematically in a circle. So now I have another question for you. What is cafe culture? You've all experienced it. What is it? One more. What's going on?
An opportunity to share ideas.
Cafe culture is an opportunity to share ideas.
Have fun.
Pardon?
Have fun.
It's a chance to have fun.
People watching.
It's a chance to see people and be seen.
Drink.
It's a chance to drink.
Smoking.
A place where people smoke. Okay, that works.
It's true.
Place to stay as long as you want.
A place to stay as long as you want. Yeah.
Meet your friends.
It's a place to meet your friends.
Or to be alone.
Or a place to be alone. So that leads me to the most important question about cafe culture, which we started with. You go there to talk. I don't know about you, but I am always impressed with how much people talk at cafes.
Or anywhere.
Or restaurants or whatever, because, in the United States, we go to Chili's, we eat, we leave, But I've sat next to people intentionally to try to listen to their conversation. I know.
Eavesdropper.
And it's just incessant. And what's really interesting is many times it's about ideas. It's not merely about, how are your kids doing? It's politics and religion and philosophy, and it's fascinating. So here's my question. What happens when that happens?
We learn.
Pardon?
We learn.
We learn. We learn new things.
We feel stronger connections with people because it's a deeper form of communication.
We feel a deeper connection with people because it's a deeper, stronger form of communication.
It's a place to be heard.
Oh, nice. A conversation means you can be heard. It's a place to be heard.
Place to not feel different.
It's a place to not feel different. You're not the outsider. Right.
Or you are sometimes. Like,
You get a sense
if
of
you're not
belonging.
as good in the language, then you do feel like an outsider.
Oh, right. If you didn't have French down pat,
Yeah.
you could feel like an outsider. But hopefully you have someone with your language to talk
Creates pleasure.
to. It creates pleasure. It's joyful just to talk.
Also, you get challenged, so you can examine your priors or your assumptions. So it's a good place to kind of figure out, do I know what I really know? Kind of expanding your universe.
It's a great place to challenge your own ideas and, quote, expand your universe. So now I'm going to run a few quotes by you from the 18th century and see how they align with what we just thought of. I'm going to move over here.
You
for
want
a
me to
second.
go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Just want to give everybody a chance
We
to
can't
read
see
that.
you though. Wait, we'll move it, John. Hold on. Now we can see you. Okay.
Okay. I'll let you read that. I think that's fascinating. Alone, you're not obliged to look at yourself. The world makes you look at yourself. So there's this comedian named Penn Jillette, and he says the whole reason you have friends is so someone can say to you, "What the hell's the matter with you?" Which is a different way of saying that it obliges you to look at yourself.
People need people. People who need people.
People need people. And they need them in order to develop their ideas, like Michael said. Test things out. Go ahead.
Who's beeping?
That's me. Apologies.
So this is a modern take. Florence Harang is alive and well, and she writes a blog. But it's interesting that she has identified that conversation is part of being French. Absolutely.
I don't know anybody who loves to hear their voices more. I mean, think of all the talk shows. There's insane numbers of talk shows on TV and radio here. It's incredible.
I imagine none of them are as low as Jerry Springer or something like that. Go ahead, please. So that's back to the 18th century. Again, Madame de Staël. And like you said, it's joyful to talk and share ideas. Go ahead. A little heavier one. Last one. So this one is a modern take. Go ahead. There'll be 3 different ones. Go ahead. Go ahead. Now, as an American, that third one kind of disorients me. A source of harmony and social life between different people. because conversation between different people is not a source of harmony in the United States of America. Even in places where you're surrounded by people like you, it can be a source of disharmony. And yet it's viewed as a source of harmony here. Go ahead. So we have
This is really France-centric.
Yep. What's your reaction to this? Do they seem true? Do they seem insightful? Do they seem banal? What's your reaction to this? Yes.
I mean, I relate to the fourth one? I mean, at least when I'm speaking French, for me it is a challenge, and it does feel sort of like playing an instrument or singing or something like that. So,
Okay.
yeah. Not so much in English, but yeah.
So it presents a challenge,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like playing an instrument. And
Yeah, definitely a challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody's
Definitely a
searching
challenge.
for words and,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Brings you out of your comfort zone.
It brings you out of your comfort zone, which is number 4. Yeah. Yeah.
Another element, I think, is that French conversation, there are rules of French conversation around politeness, how you say things, and the language.
So there are rules around French
I mean,
conversation.
it's that important, I guess.
Oh.
I don't know whether that's the reason, but
No,
there are
that's very
definitely rules.
that's very insightful that it's so important that there are rules surrounding it. And we'll actually get to the history of those rules in a minute.
Well, there's rules for everything.
Next.
Napoleonic Code.
Next. Thank you. So
Controversial in France.
You-
You can have a conversation with someone, tell that person politely that you absolutely don't agree with the person. It's not going to be a bloodbath. The person will say, "Oh, well, that's not what I think. But why do you say that?" Blah blah. And you could go on and on about why you don't agree with each other. But I don't see that in the States. That's what you were kind of saying.
Okay.
Especially when you disagree with people, it doesn't mean you can't talk to them.
That was at the end of the
So to repeat, just to make sure we get this recorded, Harriet's point was you can say controversial things. You're encouraged to say controversial things. And, in your words, it's not a bloodbath. There's nothing personal in disagreeing. I don't like anything about your idea. Well, that's okay. That doesn't mean you don't like me. Okay, so there's one big difference in how they're different. Yes.
I have a question, because I haven't obviously spent time here, but if you're having something controversial somewhat in French, does the other person that you're conversing with respond, or do they does each person say their views, or do they interact with those views?
Okay, so here's a question for people who have a little more experience in France than I do. And the question is, when you say something that your conversation partner disagrees with, maybe even heartily, what kind of response do you get? Do you get silence? Do you get another point of view? Do you get what do you get? Someone help me out here with this. Yeah.
I would just like to tell a brief story, because I was in the public group of people watching. It was a parade, an event, and I think it was like the end of World War II or something, okay, on Rue de Rivoli. And it was right when Mayor Delanoë had been elected, who was the gay mayor of Paris. And one man in the middle of a crowd of complete strangers made this arbitrary comment that he didn't like that it was a gay mayor. And that started a conversation among all of these total strangers that it was incredible. And here we are with umbrellas in the rain, watching a parade, but people were just discussing that whole concept in a very civilized way. And it was a long time ago, and I thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. This would never, ever have happened in the United States, period.
Were they listening as much as they were sharing?
Absolutely.
So
Everyone got
that-
involved. Everyone got involved in this conversation. And it was just amazing. I mean,
That's kind of the perfect story.
yeah,
It really is.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
There is a question of social class.
There is a question of social class.
And as you move up in the social class, you learn maybe not to, if you don't agree, you don't say, I don't agree. So you either change the conversation, deflect it. You wouldn't go out point blank and say, no, I don't agree with you. That would be so impolite.
If you were of a different social class.
No, if you were the
No.
same social class. I mean,
Okay.
you probably wouldn't even do it if you were the same social class, but if you were a different one, that'd be worse. So that's a different way.
Okay, so another take on it is that social class can manifest and change the conversation, depending. Okay?
Okay, but your social classes here are determined by your level of education, not
Right.
by your income or by your birthright. It's
Right.
determined by your level of education,
Yeah.
which makes it different again.
Which
and
makes
you
it
hear a
different
French
again.
conversation where they're talking, they're talking to each other and they sniff each other out. So, it's kind of like, it's not like, how much money do you make? It's like, what school did
Yeah,
you
right,
go
what
to?
school
But
did
you don't ask the question. You ask questions around the question. And then you'll find out. So when I go out with my husband, I said, who are these people? What is their social class? And he can tell me because I do now more, but I didn't used to know. And it was a mystery because nothing is out there. You have to guess. You have to really be subtle.
So evidently, finding out how to enter conversations can be a little tricky, according to Harriet.
Harriet's an expert on culture.
Oh yes,
Uh-huh.
I've read her
Just
books.
so you know, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if you haven't, you should.
That's
Yes.
right.
Thank you, John.
I'll offer a slightly different perspective as somebody who's been on, I'm not bragging about this, on television. There's a difference I've noticed between a lot of what I would call a spontaneous and informal conversation and a formal or moderated conversation, where the idea that is very innate in Anglo-Saxons of sort of immediately challenging an error that they hear or something that they disagree with is very heavily subordinated to the need for everyone in a moderated conversation to have their turn to say something, which can lead to a lot of frustration if you're speaking or if you're on a panel and somebody says something but the moderator hasn't pointed to you to speak. It's like one of the differences between what I call an authentic conversation and a guided conversation in French, which I find very interesting in terms of the rules that are at play. I don't know if you
No, thank you.
follow that.
No, thank you. I do. So the idea, in case it wasn't heard, is that under certain circumstances, conversations are a little more guided, a little more structured than the informal conversation that you might have with a friend. I saw a hand.
Yeah,
Yes.
This is quite interesting because there's a book called Almost French by Sarah Turnbull, an Australian journalist, which makes the comparison between French and Francophone and Anglophone conversations. That in Francophone conversations, people talk over one another and disagree very actively, and in the Anglophone world, we wait for the other person to finish speaking. So it's sort of interesting that the moderated conversation actually operates more like, in some ways, like an Anglophone conversation.
Is there any such
Heard it?
thing as an Anglophone conversation? If I think about the Brits and the Americans, I think there's a huge amount of differences.
Yeah.
And also one question I've always wondered, or look for an answer is, how come when three Americans are in a French cafe, you can hear every word they say in the room? Why is that? Whereas French in a restaurant are like at the confessional, so close
You
can
have to
hear
repeat
what they
that.
say.
I'm not
So the question is,
Hold on.
why is it that in a French cafe or a restaurant, Americans can easily be heard by everyone, and the French cannot because, quote unquote, it's more like a confessional. I don't know, that takes me a little off track. I can't answer that question about cultural differences, unfortunately. I have seen it, but it kind of takes me far afield.
I don't know whether this is correct or not, but in American conversations between two people, even if an American disagrees, if they're being polite, they say, well, I understand what you're saying, but whereas my conversations with my French friends are politely challenging. Why do you think that way? What is your experience? It's a direct challenge to understand why exactly you are saying what you're saying, so that they can then respond to it.
And an invitation to be understood. Yeah. Thank you. Those were excellent comments.
That's true. God, it's so true.
So now I'm not going to make you answer that question, why. Now I'm going to give you a little history, if I can, about why it is that I think conversations in general are so different. So from a historical perspective, if you go back to the early 17th century, starting in 1618, a woman by the name of Catherine de Vivonne, Madame de Rambouillet, was, am I in okay position?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was tired of court life, and she decided to architecturally, interior designly, remodel her room. And she painted it blue. You can see all the blue there is here, and decorated it with flowers, and this was completely non-traditional. No one painted anything blue. And she invited all kinds of people into her room to create a salon. Now, it wasn't the first salon ever, but it was certainly the most famous as being among the first. So, for example...
What happened?
Don't know. Do another one. Do another one. Do another one. Do another one.
Hold on.
There we go.
Okay.
So she became the center of this conversational group in which politeness became the rule. Politesse. You were going to treat everyone there with respect, or you weren't coming to my salon. That led to people learning to speak in a certain way that was called eloquence, and you were often judged by how eloquent and polite you could speak. It led to open discussions, formal discussions, and discussions about literature. So she set the tone for generations of salonières, following this pattern of making sure that everyone is heard, making sure that you talk about interesting things in a certain way. Now we're going to jump ahead 100 years to 1720. In between there are dozens and dozens of salons, some of which are immensely famous, some of which just go away without ever learning about them, to Madame de Tenson's salon. Go ahead. Now the tone in her salon is going to be a little different. Go ahead. So here there's a real emphasis on intellectual conversation, not merely being polite. And she places a great deal of emphasis on everyone being equal. You walk in here, whether you're a poet or you're an aristocrat, you're all equal. Philosophy starts to make its way into the salon, which was somewhat of a forbidden topic because it could impinge upon religion and impinge upon theological debates and possibly even to politics. And so even though you shied away from talking directly about politics, you could still talk about somewhat controversial things, as is witnessed by some of the guest list, some very controversial figures here. Montesquieu's The Spirit of Laws was a book that was banned multiple times in France. Fontenelle was the perpetual secretary of the Academy of l'Académie Française, and he wrote a significant quantity of subversive literature, that some of which didn't get published till after his death, after 99 years. And Helvétius, I can never say his name, Helvétius, Helvétius, was considered to be an outright materialist and atheist, and well protected in this particular salon. So you can see the conversation of the course of the century is turning more and more open, more and more liberal. Go ahead.
So they were all run by women.
All except one. There were a few in the 1620s. There were a few when they were starting out, a few run by men, and over time they became dominated by women salonières, with the exception of D'Holbach's salon. But probably 95% over the course of time came to be run by women, certainly.
And why?
There was an understanding that women possessed a power to control atmospheres that men didn't have the ability to do.
Okay.
Was that a okay explanation?
I guess,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay, good. We got a thumbs up on that one. So we're jumping ahead to Madame Geoffrin's Wednesday Salon. So those are not her birth dates. Those are the dates of her salon. 28 years
27 years.
salon. And that's not an actual representation. This is meant to represent people who came and went over the years. So you see the bust of Voltaire in the back. He never attended this salon, for example. And there are other famous faces in the crowd. Diderot's in the crowd, for example. And we haven't even identified who all the people are. Pardon?
Very heavily male.
Yeah, it's heavily male.
Yes, salons were 90% of them, the invitees were largely men. And that varied a lot from salon to salon. So I can't place a rule on it, but certainly most right.
What did I do? Hold on. Aw. It'll come back. See?
Okay.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah, that's good. That's where we want to be.
Okay.
We're fine.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
so you can see there was some continuity between salons, because she inherited Madame Tanson's guests, and the subject changes now to more philosophical conversation. And most importantly, we're at the high moment of the Enlightenment, 1750. And so now we're not just talking about philosophy, we're preaching Enlightenment ideals. Toleration, freedom of the press, the value of having a king or not, freedom of speech, etc. Next one, please. And now you get the really high-level radical thinkers. So all of these people would have considered themselves to be anti-monarchists, anti-clericalists, and two of the three for sure were atheists, and a third was perhaps a deist. And so you see the shift from an emphasis on politesse, we're all going to be nice, we're going to have nice conversations, to we're going to have really open conversations. Go ahead. So this sort of answers the question that we had a minute ago about the makeup of the different salons. So it depended very much on the hostess, on the guests, on the year that they were being held, on political actions being taken by the country, but it was a place to go and talk. So now it's back on you. So if you go to these places that I've just described briefly, what habits, not what things could you learn, in other words, not how you could learn about politics, what habits would you learn at a salon?
Public speaking, social habits.
Pardon?
Listen.
I heard?
How to listen.
That was good. The question is, did he say that the first time and repeat it? How to listen.
Public speaking.
Social graces.
Public speaking, she said.
Public
Diane said,
speaking.
yeah.
How to debate.
How to debate.
How to formulate ideas.
How to formulate ideas.
How to listen.
How to listen.
Again, yeah.
I guess somebody's trying to tell me something. Go ahead.
Oh.
So this is a 17th century writer saying what he had learned from salon life, how to harmoniously dialogue with other people. Go ahead. So here you see the social leveling. It doesn't matter whether you're a wannabe poet or an aristocrat. You have a place where you can be heard, and only better reasoning prevailed. You weren't right because you had power. You were right because you had a constructive argument. Yeah.
So you had to be on your best behavior.
To a certain degree. When it came to politics, you had to be on your best behavior. You might stray into religion or into anti-clericalism, but actually questioning the king's decisions to tax, go to war, etc. Yeah, and so they'd take off to Tuileries and really let it go. Go ahead. That was mine. These are some beautiful habits of mind that we can still learn from them if we keep them in mind. Go ahead. So now the hard question. We've talked about bridges. We've talked about conversation. We've talked about salons where people are conversing. So now I want you to answer this question, very abstract. What happens when you create conversational bridges?
Get out of your comfort zone.
You get out of your comfort zone. You're challenged. You learn something.
You become more educated.
You become more educated.
You see things from someone else's viewpoint.
You can see things from someone else's viewpoint. Outstanding. So now we're going to follow this theme of conversational bridges. Sorry, I went that way. Should have gone that way, and I went that way. To a remarkable person from the 17th century.
He looks
who was,
very frightening.
He was, in his time, considered the most noble human being who had ever lived. When he died, a poem was written in every known language praising his gentility and his ability as a gentleman. His name is Nicolas Claude Peiresc. Go ahead. And he had an infinite number of interests, and he was a master networker. Go ahead. One more. Stop there for a second. We have about 10,000 of his 14,000 letters.
Wow.
And yes. He lived in Paris for 7 years, and during those 7 years he established conversational networks that were practically unparalleled. Go ahead. He was an astronomer. Go ahead. Keep going. You can just roll through these.
It keeps going. Holy, is that the end?
Nope. Back one.
I'm going back. Oh my God.
You can see his interests were enormous, and he was a scholar of all of those things. So I'm just going to do a little side one here now. He identified the Great Cameo of France. I don't know if you guys know the Great Cameo of France, but it fascinates me, so I'm going to do a little side tour. Go ahead. This is the Great Cameo of France. And in my mind, it's the most beautiful object in all of Paris. You can see it. It's about yay big. It's about yay big. And it's in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, Richelieu, in their little museum. It's the second item that you see when you go in. So what he did was he figured out that this was a representation of a Roman lineage and not a biblical story. So it had been assumed for hundreds and hundreds of years that this was a depiction of a biblical story. And he figured out, because he was an antiquarian, that it was not. So I just put a link there because I wrote an article about it, and if you're interested, you can see that. Okay, back on track.
Going back to this?
No, go ahead.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a map of some of his correspondent networks, his connections to people, which were absolutely vast. Go ahead. He was the tutor of Marin Mersenne. Marin Mersenne is probably the most important figure in the history of French ideas that you've never heard of, or at least most people have never heard of Marin Mersenne. He was Peiresc tutoree. He learned from him, and when Peiresc went back home after 1623, Mersenne took over his networking. Go ahead. So, among other things, we'll pause there. So, scholars of the Enlightenment consider him to be perhaps the dominant figure in the history of thought in the 17th century, which is astonishing that you could not hear about someone like this. Go ahead. He earned the title. Pardon? No internet. Which means that because there was no internet, he had to be the postbox of Europe. Everything went through him. He was at one time the only person who knew Descartes' whereabouts. Descartes and Pascal met in his cell. He was a minim monk. I don't know what. Yes. He lived about 2 blocks from the Place des Vosges, and everyone would go there to meet. And when Descartes and Pascal show up on the same day, you're a heavy hitter. Go ahead. 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 Go ahead.
Should I go back?
No,
Okay.
that's good. You got a flavor for that. So this is a map. This is from my book, actually, so I created this. This is a map of the contacts that he had, larger bubbles being more important figures, distance marked by here. You can see that if you're communicating with some of the names on this list, like Descartes and Galileo, you're a pretty important intellectual figure. Go ahead. What there? So now we're back to the question, what do you get when you build conversational bridges? And I think my answer is you get networks. You get networks of people. Now, hear me out. I don't know how many of you are actually French, but I just get the feeling, I could be wrong about it, I get the feeling that when I talk to French people, one of the things that's going on is a desire to understand where you fit in the network. Who are you? What connections do you have? What sort of beautiful things can you bring to the table and I can share with you? In my mind, I could be wrong, talking to a French speaker is more conscious of the connections that you and he or she has than most Americans are. Now that's going to come into play here in a little bit, because I think it testifies to the networking ability of French people in a way that's completely different from United States people. We hear the word network and we think make a contact and make some business, and I could be wrong. I don't think that's going on in a French person's mind. Go ahead. So the next question is for me to answer. Who was Théophile Renaudot and why should you care? Has anybody ever been on Rue Renaudot? No? It's right by Place Lambert. Go ahead. He's another one of those slippery figures. Go ahead.
Okay.
Who you probably haven't heard of, but played an enormous intellectual role.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Employers with job seekers?
Go ahead.
Le pour et le contre.
So if you stare at this long enough, you'll see a little pattern starting to emerge. And that is, he likes to get people together. So this was an answer to unemployment. That is, bring employers and potential employees together, let them talk, see what their skills are. He had the first unemployment agency, probably in Europe. And then disseminating information out, the first newspaper in France. And he organizes conferences that take place every week, and anyone and everyone is invited. Anyone. And the topics are astonishing, which I'll share with you in a minute. But the most important thing here is le pour et le contre. The for and the against, the pro and the con. So in these conferences, he asks people to speak for and against, and they do so anonymously. Now, I don't know how this happens. Maybe behind a screen, no one really knows. But you're not allowed to know the identity of the speaker, because then you would lend credence or lack of credence to the speaker by virtue of the fact of who they are. And he didn't want authority to bear on an argument. He wanted simply the pro and the con to be in place and to be judged in and of themselves. Go ahead. So this started a tradition of asking questions. For example, should you bathe or not was a medical question. What should you eat to stay healthy? How do I defend myself at law? How do you learn how to speak? There was no end to the topics, and everyone was invited, and everyone followed the same pattern. Pro and con, anonymously. People were even asked to bring their own poetry and read it and get a pro and a con advice. And so people who were literally learning how to write and maybe wrote a letter to their son or daughter or a poem to their love interest, and it was the first thing they'd ever written in their lives, they were asked to bring and share that and get critiques. So again, you've got the social leveling there. Doesn't matter what class you are, you can get advice from an aristocrat. Go ahead. So, to prove my point about how important Renaudot was, I want to show you that his tradition is alive and well in Paris. Go ahead. So, if you've never been to the Collège de France, they have lectures every day, sometimes 2, 3, 4, and they're everything from quantum physics to questions about healthcare. They're fascinating. Go ahead. If you've never been to the MK2 lectures, you know MK2 because they're theater, but they have lectures also on philosophy, archaeology, how to write, women's issues, health issues, you name it, and there's an event. So if you go to MK2 and you go to the événement, then you can find a list of all of these. Go ahead. So the Institute of Advanced Studies does something about once a month. They bring in a couple of professionals. Right now the topic is democracy. Yes, they're going there. Go ahead. One of the ways that I got myself started on conferences was going to the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, Richelieu, and Mitterrand. So they have different kinds of lectures, but because they have PowerPoint presentations, it was a little easier for me to follow along when my French was worse than it is. But if you haven't been to one, they're really interesting. The BNF Richelieu is all about the treasures of the BNF, that is, what artistic artifacts they have. They put them on display and they talk about them. Go ahead. Sciences Po is the leading social sciences and political sciences university in Paris. They give lectures that are free to the public. Whenever they change the display at the Archives Nationales, they have lectures about it. Go ahead. Any of you been to a Café Philo?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a few Café Philos. So Café Philos are something you have to do. They have several of them around Paris, notably Sunday on Place de la Bastille. And
Café
the way it
Phare.
works, what's
at
that?
The Café Phare, I think, right?
There's Phare and there's one at Les Associés. So they get a group of people about this many in a room, more or less, and different people propose different questions. And it can be anything. What's the meaning of life? Is democracy the answer? You name it. And then everyone votes on which question to discuss, and then you discuss it, civilly, of course, for about 2 hours. And it is a fascinating look into the French mind. If you haven't gone, you should. And there are plenty of times where the French is over my head, and it's still enjoyable. So I wouldn't let that be intimidating. The New Acropolis is a worldwide institution with 3 outlets in Paris, and they give classes on philosophy, ranging from Stoicism to Buddhism to, they tend to center on how to live your life. They generally are free or 10 euros. And they're about every Wednesday or so. Go ahead. So the Philosophical Association is run by a guy named Xavier Bellamy. He's a politician also. And he stands on stage and he talks for an hour and a half about a philosophical question, and I have never lost interest. It's amazing. And he plays to crowds of 600-700 people. It's at the Théâtre Saint-Antoine. Mondays, maybe every third or fourth Monday, they'll have a different topic, but you can look at the website. And for somebody to stand and talk for an hour and a half,
which you're doing.
Well, yeah, I've got PowerPoint slides, and I've got audience participation, gratefully. He doesn't, and he holds his audiences spellbound. I have been every one that I've gone to. Go ahead. I have not been to Tuesday Philosophy because they conflict with something else. Go ahead. And finally, there are a number of foreign language institutes that give lectures. I like the Cervantes Institute, but there's a Goethe Institute for German speakers, and there's a whole variety of them. So I've been to all of these except that one there, and everyone has borne out to me the idea that deep thinking is really important to the French. It's incumbent upon us to learn how to be part of that. And there's always a spirit of conviviality. Go ahead. So I'm getting to the last 10 or 12 slides, and I wanted to summarize what we're doing. The way I see this is you have some big themes emerging: physical bridges, structures creating an environment, salons creating an intellectual environment, all of which we've inherited. People like Peiresc and Mersenne, who have created networking environments, and people like Renaudot, who have created information sharing environments. Go ahead. That leads to the top level information sharing adventure of the 18th century, l'encyclopédie. So this was published between 1750 and 1771 or 72, so it took 22 years to publish it. Go ahead. So Diderot not only contributed 10% of the articles, he was the director of the project for the entire 20 years. In fact, when he was imprisoned in the Château de Vincennes for writing illicit literature, one of the things that got him out was nobody else could do this. And it was recognized this was going to be a huge boon to the king, to France, to several economic factors, including publishers, and the case was made. He's it. He's the only person, and they let him out of prison. I'll show you a few plates. Go ahead, just to see some of the visuality of the encyclopedia. He tried to take everything that was in the world and show people in simple ways. This is one on upholstery. This is one on music making instruments. This is one on chemistry. Those are chemistry symbols. So on pharmacy also. If you go to the Val-de-Grâce Museum, it's a museum of the history of military healthcare. You can actually see some of this stuff, what the real urns looked like, and labels with different chemical symbols from the age and a little bit later. Go ahead. So adding to this, we get the encyclopedia as an important culminating point in knowledge sharing. Go ahead. Back up one. Go forward one. So you see that I've gone from the concrete to the abstract. Back up one. Go forward. There. And so bridges are a form of connection. Salons are a form of conversation. Networks, represented by Pierresque and Mersenne. Culture of learning by Renaudot. And the collectivist endeavor by l'Encyclopédie. Go ahead. So my question is, for you, how do these 5 things add up to a culture of curiosity? Go ahead. So that's the previous slide repeated. So the question is, how do connection, conversation, network, culture of learning, and collectivism add up to a culture of curiosity?
The more you learn, the more you want to know.
The more you learn, the more you want to know. Excellent.
I would think it's just the opposite. Those don't create curiosity, but curiosity creates those.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. And it certainly may be. My general impression was that, like the quote said, curiosity got inspired by a small number of people working in a certain way, but it certainly could be that there was a culture of curiosity existing before this that gave birth to this. I've seen it the other way, but I could certainly see it that way as well. Hard question, evidently.
You're waiting for us to give you something?
Yeah.
If you didn't have curiosity, you had nothing to contribute to this, and therefore you were out socially.
Oh, nicely. If you weren't curious, you couldn't contribute to connection, collectivism, conversation. And there you were on the outside, and we're all social creatures wanting to be on the inside, which would inspire what's going on behind those doors.
It's a circle. One thing creates the other.
It's a circle, one thing creates the other. Yes.
Well, I think also, for all of those 5 spheres, none of them is an individual endeavor. You have to be socially connected. You have to rely on other people.
So all of these are collective endeavors, and being social people, we're curious, what do you think? What do you know? How can I be involved?
You can discover that people of different classes, how do they come up with the same idea?
That is a very
From
curious
different
question. Yeah.
Backgrounds.
Right,
Different
right.
cultures.
So the social
different
leveling
social strata.
inspires curiosity also. Like, here I am an aristocrat and you're a wannabe poet, and we're in the same room. That's interesting. How did that happen?
Or we have the same idea.
Or we have the same idea, or the same writing style, or, yeah, beautiful.
John,
Yes.
Did this lead to the Age of Enlightenment
Ye-
across?
All of this is happening in the Age of Enlightenment, yeah. So
It also can create a sense of commonality across cultures.
curiosity can create commonality across cultures. I like the alliteration. Yeah?
I was just going to say, as an engineer, when I was working, all of this is so interesting because when we problem solve now in organizations, it starts with brainstorming, and you bring people from different places in to get their ideas, because not everyone has the same idea, and that what they might say, what somebody might say in a different class, could be the aha moment that that starts something else or
Right.
creates a new idea. So it's funny how what we're doing in the 21st century is based on maybe what happened.
It took us a while to catch up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't this lead to the revolution against the monarchy? This exchange of ideas?
Yes. That was easy. Go ahead. So this leads to the question, why do we love Paris? Go ahead. So in my mind, all of these connections surround the concept of knowledge and knowledge sharing. And I think that what is at the base of why we love Paris is a particular relationship to knowledge that is unique to Paris, maybe to France. I don't know enough about France to speak to it. But from what I've seen in Paris and what I've learned about Paris, at the heart of a symphony, a museum, the correct use of language, cafe culture, all those things we love, at the heart of it is knowledge sharing, inspired by collectivism, networking, curiosity, a love of philosophy, so that now this has become self-reinforcing. So that the more collectivism, the more conversation, the more networks, the more curiosity, the more the culture perpetuates itself, and the more enchanting it becomes to outsiders like me who say, wow, this is a really cool way to live. I could get into this. And not just because I like the Louvre. And not just because I like Café Philos, because I was a philosophy professor. But because the culture of learning, understanding, sharing is at the base of it. And in my mind, that sort of explains things. So I'm going to show you one last graphic.
Can I ask about this one?
Pardon?
Why is there no connection between curiosity and connection?
Yeah, because that's the way Microsoft PowerPoint works.
Okay. Never mind.
So I took a picture of a menu at a cafe. This is called Sapiens Cafe. And
that's funny.
Before we translate some of it, there's their mission statement. And on either side of the mission statement are brains growing out of coffee. First slide. Maybe you can't all see it. Welcome to Sapiens, a cultural and scientific cafe. A cultural and scientific cafe. At Sapiens, you come to eat well, but you also come to share ideas, knowledge, and discoveries. Our goal is to make science and culture available to everyone in a convivial and inspiring atmosphere. Next. Artists, researchers, interested people, or simply curious people, this cafe wants to be an incubator of ideas and talents, a field of experimentation where everyone can find their place. Sit down, taste, discuss, and let your curiosity speak. And I think that's why we love Paris. Thank you. Next one.
Okay, now we have a Q&A, right?
Yeah, now we have time. We have time for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you feel like this is still going on today across classes, or classes are pretty much sticking together today?
I think it's going on across classes. So when I go to Sapiens, for example, you can see this in the way people dress and so forth. I saw a group of bigly pregnant moms there last week, and they were there with an instructor telling them about their first-time baby and maternity. I've seen business meetings going on there, just kind of everything you can imagine, and they're going there because it's this environment that says, hey, we want you here talking about things, which is pretty cool. So I would say yes.
Not just at that cafe, but in general in life, the salon,
yeah.
the sharing of ideas.
I believe they are still going on across social barriers. I just chose Sapiens because I thought it was representative of a broader culture.
John, I know from reading the book, I know that you talked a little bit about coffee.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Coffee was introduced to Paris. Oh, I wish I could give you a date. Late 17th century, mid 17th century. And before coffee was introduced, people were in the habit of drinking alcohol for breakfast. So this is a profound cognitive shift. You go from a narcotic, essentially,
Well, to another narcotic.
well, to a stimulant.
Right, yeah, okay.
So one brings you
Depressant to
down, and
stimulant, right.
the other one brings you up. And it was such a big shift that the king actually considered banning coffee because it inspired people to talk ideas and to keep going. And in Turkey, in fact, coffee houses were banned because of their subversive potential. Not just the stimulant itself, but the fact that people were getting together and talking on stimulants.
And what do you think about the explosion of coffee? Not just cafe culture, but coffee shops everywhere.
Yeah.
Even instant coffee is somehow making its resurgence.
Yeah.
Popularity. I never drink
So-
coffee. They won't get any business from me.
Are you talking 18th century?
No, today.
No, I don't know.
I mean, it's just exploded.
I suppose it has something to do with its addictive power, with its ability to bring people together, with the ability to just take a break and do something legitimate with your break. But I'm just guessing.
There's more coffee shops than pharmacies, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Pa-
TV series Friends, you know,
Yeah.
which has a big impact here in France.
Yeah.
I think that for young people created the kind of culture that allowed, believe it or not, Starbucks to thrive.
Right,
here.
that's right.
Starbucks.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
remember it.
We have a question.
So, I have the impression that the French are not that open to being friends
Uh-huh.
with other cultures, especially like Americans.
Right.
How does this fit into that?
Okay. I think that the way that we approach people socially, in the United States at least, is different from the way that you might approach people in France. So, like Harriet was pointing out, some controversy has to be at stake. In other words, we Americans, we say, hey, you know, what do you do for a living? And we go right to, you make a good living at that? You know, what kind of car do you have? Do you love your wife? You know, I'm exaggerating.
No, you're not.
But it's intensely personal and highly superficial. And so one of the things that the French do, I think, is try to get beyond the layer of superficiality. And so if you're not offering something beyond the layer of superficiality, I think there's less chance of a connection. Harriet, am I getting that right, do you think? Okay. Harriet has written books about the subject, so you can trust her more than me, and she said yes.
Well, I've lived with the Frenchman for 52 years, so if I haven't figured out a few things, it's pretty pathetic.
Harriet was married at age 8, so you know. But it turned out.
So,
David.
I just want to comment on this kind of idea we pursue a little bit, that the French and Parisians in particular aren't terribly warm. And it is an idea that is out there, and therefore there is some basis, I think, for it. In my personal experience, Parisians are quite the reverse, actually. If I'm a member of a couple of clubs which are mostly Parisians here in Paris. I've never met a group of warmer, more receptive, more more welcoming people. It's a very interesting and to me a little bit puzzling phenomenon as to why there is this view that Parisians are not terribly welcoming, and there has to be an explanation of it. Right? It's not a collective fantasy, but it has to. I don't think the explanation is the simple one that they're cold and not welcoming. I think there's a more complicated explanation. I don't know what it is.
So if you were able to look at it through at least this lens, which is only one lens, then an answer to that question would be, what are you bringing to the table informationally, culturally, not merely a human connection with what do you do for a living. I could be wrong about that. Yes, 1, 2, go ahead.
The focus on knowledge is, I understand it, but how can you exclude the notion of creativity and artistic?
I can't. It was just not what I wrote about. When I got to the topic of public knowledge, I found that creativity and artistic endeavor was another beast that I wasn't qualified to deal with.
Of Paris.
Yeah.
And the creativity in the artistic history of Paris that attracted so many people.
Absolutely. And that is part of a culture of knowledge, just a piece that I didn't have the expertise to deal with. Yes?
I think also a lot of French people, and particularly of course in Paris, have very strong family cultural networks. And you don't actually fit into that cultural network unless you can find a way into it. So it's not that they're being, but you just aren't part of it.
And perhaps a way in is being interesting. Whatever that means. Yes?
John, I was noticing, it's, first of all, fascinating lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But it's almost peculiar to the history because they didn't have the technology. So if you wanted to learn, if you wanted to challenge yourself, you had to go out social, right? So I was wondering if you're kind of concerned about our future. With the internet now, it seems to me that you can do this in an individual way. So maybe you don't need to be as polite to the other person. Maybe you can kind of curate your own bubble of what you think and never be challenged. Or do you think possibly the internet can be changed so it can be some sort of vehicle or technological way for people to get back together?
I think we're on a slippery slope right now. I don't know where it's going to end up. Parisians, at least, have managed to stay off the slippery slope to a larger degree than Americans have. It doesn't mean they're not headed down the same path. I don't know where it ends. I don't see a good future. I see more isolationism, but I also see among the French a great desire to maintain connection, connectivity, continue sociality, keep their culture alive, keep their heritage alive. How long they can avoid going into bubbles and finding all the answers on their own, I wish I could tell
Very
you.
quickly, if you take a photograph of cafe culture today or coffee shop today, I see a lot of young Parisians on their cell phones, on their laptops, and I see that happening more and more. So they're not really socializing externally. So I'm a little bit interested.
That's part of the slippery slope that is certainly concerning.
I'd just like to point out that there's still like a dozen political parties in France, not just two, not like in the US where you've only got two sets of ideas.
Yeah.
And they're open to all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that still exists here, if not more so.
Yeah.
I mean, how many different parties are running for mayor of Paris at this moment? There are like 6 candidates, so 6 different parties.
Yeah. And that bespeaks a lot to the culture and differences of opinion and acceptability of opinions.
So I want to go back to this, like, figuring out why we fell in love with Paris.
Okay.
Well, you know, and it may be all of France because Paris represents all of France. But it just seems to me that I think you are right about it being the basis of knowledge, culture, information that hits you so profoundly that you can't. I couldn't even grasp it exactly. I couldn't quite understand what it was. And that's for me personally, of course.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
But this answers a lot of that.
Thank you. I'm glad I could do that. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
does anybody else feel the same way, or is it?
I also feel the scale too. The human scale is so important here. That's unique. The architecture, I mean, the actual shapes, the volumes, the historical size of everything is still a human scale versus it's not. America's designed around the automobile. opposites in terms of scale, for the most part.
Yeah. Just in terms
Yeah,
of
but that had to do
living.
with capitalism.
No,
I also feel like when I first came here 20 years ago, as a matter of fact, but that we kind of stepped back in time. So I almost felt that I transformed into another person. You know, we were like through the time I think we were in Après, and we felt different. Like, you know, and I've been to plenty other, you know, European cities, and I have a love affair with Italy because I love Renaissance art, but it's different. It's different. There's a different.
I've traveled all over Europe, and there's not another city in all of Europe that hits me the same way Paris does. Never has. That's what I'm saying. I can't explain it.
I hope I'm right about it.
Me
then.
too.
One question I throw out, and this kind of takes the discussion slightly to a different track, is I would contend that one can understand the United States, but not necessarily speak English. But my question is whether one can understand France or a city like Paris without speaking French. And I think that's very much at the heart of a lot of this, because I believe, somebody kind of said this before, the challenge of speaking in French is a very positive thing. I believe it's one of the few reasons I'm not so far suffering early signs of dementia, is that I actually take pleasure if I'm successfully making a point in French, and it's because I have to do it with a depth and a knowledge and an understanding of the language, however imperfect that might be, and it makes a big difference in how I relate to the French people and how I relate to anybody here versus in the United States. I feel like, you know, I don't feel like the depth or the intellectual effort is necessarily as great, but I don't know. I may be, you know, I'm very jaded and very, you know, my opinions about the United States have definitely soured over the past couple of decades. So.
Well, I think French helps. I mean, knowing French certainly helps. My French isn't great, but I try very hard to observe the culture and get a feel for what people are living, and that has helped maybe overcome my linguistic barrier. I just thought of something. If you've ever been maybe to a lecture or something, have you ever seen how many people take notes in France? It is striking. Nobody does that in the United States. Everybody's got a little notepad and they're writing everything down. And I did a very sad experiment one time. I was in a little garden, and there's this very unusual tree. And I watched families walk by during the tourist season, and I listened very carefully to what language they were speaking. And to a body, all the Americans walked right by the tree, and to a body, all the French people stopped, looked at the tree, told their children about it. This is this kind of tree, and look at that. And the kids went, oh, there's a butterfly on it too. And there was just this stark contrast and curiosity that I think is an essential part of why we love this place, because there are people like that. And for me, Paris is beautiful. Paris is romantic, but it's the people that make it to me. And the reason they are the way they are to a large degree, is because of their patrimony, their inheritance intellectually of some of the habits that, and I'm not saying genes don't play a role, but on a cultural level, what I find most attractive is the habits of mind of Parisians. That's just me. Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
I think the way I think about it, just to extend your thought, is that the French respect that knowledge to the point that they preserved the history of it.
Yeah.
Whether it's the beautiful architecture or the beautiful art.
Right.
If you think about America, we are all about the future, about whatever is new idea, whatever is going to happen in the future, whereas the French respect for that knowledge, to preserve it, whether it's architecture, art, arrondissements, public markets, whatever it is, that I think adds to the end of your discussion, so that
Thank
it's
you.
not only the knowledge, but the respect to preserve it, which essentially preserves the lifestyle.
Right. Their patrimony.
Yes.
Yeah. I have an article about that. You can find that.
And perhaps also this interest in knowledge is something that is born in French schools. I mean, there's some kind of perpetuation of the French, schools where we're really accumulating knowledge of foreign languages, mathematics. I mean, there's some kind of aspiration to universal knowledge that I think doesn't exist in the States, and some kind of real effort that is demanded in schools, and where like the best students are really admire themselves. I mean, there's this thing, for instance, in France called the concours général, where all the best students in a certain topic take an exam, written exam of 4 or 5 hours, and then their names are published in the big Persian newspapers, and they go and shake hands with the President of the Republic. You can't imagine this kind of thing in the U.S.
No.
And I think this interest, this curiosity, is to some extent takes shape in French schools.
And everyone takes a philosophy course in high school.
That's right.
The last year of high school.
Yeah.
And the streets are named after the writers and philosophers and scientists, not just after trees.
There's a basketball court
No, I'm serious.
in Paris named Voltaire.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Exactly.
David.
I had one other comment on schools actually, because it was very impressed me a lot. So when we came here, my daughter, who had been in American school, went to school here in France, to a regular public school. And the thing which was so different was the focus on school meals, which, when I grew up in England, when she grew up in the US, the school meal was not the focus. It wasn't a focus, anybody's focus. In France,
And you didn't want to eat it.
in France, there was a focus, even on kids in schools, on the food they were eating, how it was prepared, and so on and so forth. And this more than anything sort of impressed me as to how this patrimony can be inherited. That there is some conscious intention to, educate the children in how to be French and the values of the French going forward. Totally different from
It's a great example. It is.
You know that French meals for the children at the elementary school and even later on, they publish the menus once a week. So
Yes, that's right.
As a French mother or as
That's
a
right.
mother of French children, you look at the menus to see what they eat at noon, so you won't serve the same thing at night.
Wow.
That was the most shocking thing when I moved here with my daughter, who was 8 years old, and we saw the menus.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe what they were eating. It was adult. It was yes, but it was adult. It was adult meals.
Yeah. And it's I think it's so interesting what David said, that's not just proper nourishment, that's cultural inheritance,
That's right.
which is really interesting.
And also say the other side of it, so that is what attracts us to the French. But when you ask why do we love France,
Yeah.
I think the group of people that tend to love France are romantics and idealists. In other words, the group that love France has a set of characteristics as well.
Fair enough.
That find this attractive.
I agree with that.
Yeah. On the other hand, I've had friends come visit me who had no idea what Paris was like, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm moving here tomorrow. What have I been doing with my life?"
Were they Republicans?
Shame on you.
Just ask
Shame
it.
on you.
There are also people who come here who don't enjoy their week in Paris.
Well, that's enough questions, so thank you very much.
Goodness. John, thank you very, very much. It was fascinating. You have to order it online, okay? And then maybe you'll connect with John and get him to sign your copy, okay? And you're going to love every word. Thank you so
Adrian.
much.
Thanks. I appreciate it.